One finger gestures. What do I mean when I say one finger gestures? Well, a gesture is a way that you move your fingers on the screen to make something happen with voiceover. So, we're going to talk about one finger gestures. These gestures are important to learn in order to do things with your iPhone. A good place to practice these gestures is on the home screen. Remember, if you're listening along to this recording and you want to do these operations while I'm saying them here, you can unlock your device and go to your home screen. Remember to unlock your device. If you're using the fingerprint identifier, just simply, if your device's screen is black, just simply place your thumb or index finger, depending upon which finger you used to recognize your fingerprint. So you take that finger and you just lay it on the home button, then push once. Don't hold it down, just a push and release. And it should take you right to your home screen. If not, you can then try if the screen lights up but doesn't take you to your home screen, just take your thumb or finger again and place it on the home button. Just leave it there. Don't push, just place it there and rest it there. And then it should take you to your home screen. If not, you'll have to enter your passcode. And remember, to enter your passcode, you take one finger, you'll see a number pad on the screen, and you'll take one finger and drag it over the numbers. Every time you hear the number that you want to press for your passcode, you leave that finger on the screen when you hear the number, and then you take another finger and tap the screen once. And you continue to do that until you find all of the numbers for your passcode. Okay, so once you get to your home screen, you can practice these gestures. The first gesture is touching or moving around the screen. If you take one finger and you drag it around the screen, just by leaving it on the screen and just dragging it around, you'll see that VoiceOver will announce the item that is underneath your finger. So you can move around the screen simply by taking your finger and dragging it around the screen. And if you want to know where you are, well, every time your finger comes over an item, it will announce what that item is. The next gesture is swiping left or right. Every time you come to a screen, your focus is in the top left-hand corner of that screen. When I say focus, I mean wherever VoiceOver's focus is on the screen, where if you were to do an action, it would cause an action at that point. And if you look on the screen, you may be able to see a thick, dark box around an item. And that is where your focus is. And that is where you are able to manipulate the item within that focus. To practice using the swipe left or right method, when you're on your home screen, you can go ahead and swipe to the right until you hear it say music. Then take one finger and swipe to the left until you hear it say messages. And then go back and forth from one to the other. Or choose other apps as landmarks to navigate to. When swiping or flicking left and right, this can be a tricky maneuver, but it's really one of the foundations to learning voiceover. When you're flicking the screen with your thumb or finger, and it is recommended that you use your thumb so that if you can hold your phone in your one hand, and while that phone is in that hand, you use the thumb of the hand that you are holding the phone to flick the screen left or right. So when you're flicking, you don't want your finger or thumb to go still at any time. If it does, the voiceover focus will go below where your finger is. If not, every time you flick to the right, the focus will go to the item just to the right of where your focus was. And your finger doesn't necessarily need to be in that area or even touching the item that you're looking for. This is how we can move around the screen without seeing what's there. You flick right, it takes you to the item on the right. You flick left, it takes you to the item on the left. If you reach the point where you can't go any further, you'll hear a thud sound. If you hear that sound, well, then you can't go any further left. Or if you are going to the right and you hear that thud sound, then you can't go any further right. So when you're flicking, you only need your finger to flick on the screen the enough distance to let the phone know that's the way you want to go. So even half inch of space. Don't make the mistake of flicking the entire width of the screen, because if you do, it's a greater chance that you will make an error by either letting your finger slow down, and if that happens, the focus will go right to where your finger is. So you flick left or right to navigate the screen. The next gesture with one finger is tap 2 times fast on the screen. So why would you do that? Well, tapping 2 times fast on the screen is just like if you were to double click your mouse on the computer. It activates things, so, or makes choices. So if we're still on our home screen and we're swiping left or right, find an application that you want to practice with, and when, for example, the Notes application. And then when you find the Notes application, you just take one finger and double tap the screen and it will open. So you can flick left or right to find an item, or you can drag your finger around to find that item. And then once you find the item you want, you can take one finger and double tap the screen to activate it. You can also double tap the screen to enter text boxes, to activate buttons. And an on-screen button is a button that traditionally you would touch with your finger to create an action, whichever was related to that button. The next gesture is tap 2 times and hold. What this gesture is used for is moving applications into different positions on the home screen. So let's say, for example, you want to move the Messages app from the top of the home screen down to the bottom of the home screen. Once you've located that application or the Messages app, so once you locate it, leave your finger on that application, then double tap and hold anywhere on the screen. So you take your finger, and you don't need to leave it on the application. Just when you find the application, take one finger, double tap the screen twice, and on the second tap, hold your finger down on the screen. So you're going to tap, release finger, tap, and hold. And then wait. And then you'll hear a sound, and it will say it should say is editing, and you should notice the applications start to wiggle. Keep your finger on the screen. You can then move your finger around the screen to choose a different place where the app um, will be dropped. Now, you if you want to move, so the how much it can move depends upon where you put your finger on the screen. If you want to move your finger to the right on the screen, I suggest double tapping and holding to the left of the icon. Likewise, if you want to move it to the left, then you want to double tap and hold on the right side of the screen. Because if your finger reaches the side, you won't be able to take the app any further than where your finger is. Now, the third, or I'm sorry, the last single finger gesture we're going to talk about right now is flicking up or down. And what this does is it activates the rotor, the voiceover rotor. And the rotor is a menu that you can use to select special actions. So the whatever action you have selected on the rotor can be manipulated by taking one finger and flicking up or down. For example, if the rotor is set to volume, then you just take one finger and flick up or down on the screen to increase or decrease the volume, if the volume is the rotor item that you have selected. So the volume is one of the rotor items that are available. So and to select an item with the rotor, you take two fingers, you place them on the screen as if you're holding a dial for a combination lock. Then you begin turning it left and right. Every time you turn it, you'll hear it make a little click sound, and then it'll announce the option. Whenever you find the option you want, you just release your fingers. So the Alright, and so for example, if you chose volume, every time you flicked up on the screen, it would increase the volume. Every time you flick down on the screen, it would decrease the volume. One finger flick revisited. This is one of the more important gestures because it's a basic gesture for navigating the screen. And I just wanted to review this and focus in it for its own recording. Now, of course, you can search the screen by using your finger and drag it around the screen, but you can also flick the screen with your finger or thumb. And remember, when we're flicking it, we're covering just enough distance on the screen for the phone to know which way you're going. For early observation of how you are doing the finger flick, you have been using one hand to hold the iPhone and the index finger of your other hand to flick the screen. Now this is an okay method. You know, it ties up both hands though. You don't have a hand free. If you were to use your thumb, you could use the thumb on your right hand while holding the phone in your right hand if you wanted to carry something in your left hand. So that if you use the thumb on your right hand, that would give you a free hand if you need to carry something, etc. So what we'll do, another thing worth mentioning is when you're using your finger, okay, you're doing pretty good at flicking, but your speed of flicking is just borderline, and I can't think of a better term for it, acceptable for the iPhone. The iPhone would not accept any slower than that, because occasionally when you're flicked to the right, nothing happens. And that's because if you go too slow, the focus goes below where your finger is. So you want to make sure that you're going fast enough. Now, when I say going fast enough, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that I mean flick and then the speed before you flick again. But what I'm really talking about is the speed of the flick itself. So your phone can't go still at any, your finger can't go still at any time, and you want to make sure that you don't cover a lot of space, because if you cover a lot of space, that's more chance for error. Okay, so I'd say just a half inch, a quick flick, and your finger does not stay still at any time. But consider trying your thumb too. Now, your thumb's only going to work be good when you're flicking, right? And also, you could drag it around the screen to find things, but it's going to be limited to how high you can reach the screen, because these phones are so large. And if you need to get up towards the top of the screen, of course, you would hold it in your left hand, drag your finger around with your right hand. Okay, so that's really all there is to flicking with one hand. Okay.
See, I think I'll end up using my index finger faster.
Okay.
I don't think the thumb. So
Okay.
I don't. With me, I'll never have occasion to have something in my left hand.
Okay. All right. So now you have more control over your thumb than you do your index
I'm
finger.
gonna try both of them.